At 3:15 a.m., his phone lit up in the freezing dark. A whisper from a hospital, a broken girl, and a nightmare disguised as a stepfather. 16 years ago, a soldier bled out in his arms on foreign sand, and with his last breath begged him to protect the daughter he'd never see grow up. And a promise like that, a promise carved in war, does not expire. He dropped the cleaning cloth from his rifle. The German shepherd at his feet rose, ears forward, already sensing the battle ahead. One call to the iron sentinels, a brotherhood forged in fire, not chrome, and within minutes, engines woke across the state like thunder rolling through snow. 99 veterans, a blizzard ahead. But no storm, no man, no badge, no devil in a uniform was going to touch that girl again. Because this wasn't a rescue. It was a promise being collected. Before we begin, tell me, where are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments below. Snow whispered across the frozen plains of Cheyenne beneath a bruised winter sky, the world holding its breath in the hush before dawn. Inside a lonely metal garage on the outskirts of town, a single industrial lamp flickered above tools, bullet-scarred lockers, and the silent weight of memory. Rowan Hale moved with methodical calm, wiping the last trace of gun oil from the matte black training rifle resting across his lap. He was 41, lean, but built like a blade, every angle carved by years of conflict, square jaw shadowed with 2-day stubble, cheekbones taut beneath weather-toughened skin, eyes an icy gray that had once held fire but now carried the quiet of old battlefields. A faded scar curved across his right eyebrow, a souvenir from a night raid gone wrong in Helmand Province, a night when he learned how quickly the living could become ghosts. The garage smelled of steel, cold air, and motor oil, the scent of discipline, purpose, and a man who had never truly left the battlefield. Valor stirred first. The 4-year-old German shepherd rose from his padded mat, heavy frame stretching with silent precision. Thick sable fur shimmered under the dim light, ears erect and eyes bright amber, alive with a fierce protectiveness. Valor was no ordinary dog, military raised, obedience perfect, scar along his flank from a shrapnel shard. He moved like a warrior carved from instinct and loyalty. Where Rowan went, he went, shadow and steel, heartbeat and oath. Rowan noticed the dog's sudden alertness a second before the shrill ring shattered the quiet. 3:15 a.m. His stomach tightened. No good thing ever hunted a man at that hour. He reached for the buzzing phone, the glow painting hollows under his eyes. "Hale," he murmured, voice coarse from disuse, carrying that low command born from combat. The voice that answered trembled like glass. "Mr. Hale, this is Rebecca Tran, Social Services, Aurora Summit Medical Center." Rowan's body went very still, breath bridging the moment before impact. Rebecca's voice steadied, but grief lived at the edges. "It's about Maya Carter." Maya, a girl with freckled cheeks and storm-gray eyes like her father's, a girl who once sat on Rowan's shoulders at a Memorial Day parade, waving a tiny flag, unaware that heroes can bleed too deeply to return. What happened? Not a question. An order. Fractured wrist, 3 broken ribs, deep bruising, old and new. Her stepfather brought her in and claimed she fell down the stairs, but the medical staff... Rowan's hand curled into a fist, knuckles whitening. Valor pressed against his leg, reading the violent spike beneath the calm. "Her father died in my arms in Afghanistan." His voice was low, scraped raw by memory. His last breath wasn't words. It was begging without speaking. And I told him I'd guard her life as if it was my own. Rebecca exhaled shakily. "She asked for you. Whispered your name. She said you promised." Time broke open inside him, sand, gunfire, Ethan Ward's blood soaking into Rowan's uniform. Ethan's final grasp, fingertips clawing hope into Rowan's chest. "Take care of my girl." "Is she safe?" Rowan asked. "Physically? Yes, but her stepfather is pushing for discharge. He's a respected local officer and I'm coming." The words were not spoken. They detonated. He ended the call. The cold crept under Rowan's collar, but heat surged through his veins. He reached down, fastening Valor's tactical collar. The dog stood rigid, breath misting in the frigid air, waiting for the command that always preceded danger. Mount up, soldier. Valor didn't bark. He didn't need to. He leaned forward, touched his forehead briefly to Rowan's knee, a bond spoken in silence. Rowan strode across the garage toward a black duffel beneath an American flag folded in a triangular shadow box. He opened it with reverence. Inside lay a Special Forces patch, worn gloves, and a leather vest bearing a silver emblem of a clenched gauntlet and wings. Iron Sentinels, a brotherhood of veterans forged not by chrome and rebellion, but by war, loyalty, and graves they still whispered to. His thumb traced the faded letters. This was no outlaw club. These were the ones who had seen the worst of the world and still chose to stand between innocence and the wolves. He grabbed his phone again, opened the encrypted comms channel. Only one message: Maya in danger, mobilize. Rally point, Aurora Summit, wheels up in 20. He hit send. Within seconds, the replies lit the screen, one after another, the names rolling like a war drum. Reed Bear Collins, ready. Amelia Doc Vega, ready. Hawk Bishop Gator Frost, ready. In 3 minutes, 99 confirmations filled the screen. 99 men and women who had seen what humanity could become when no one fought for the helpless. Rowan slid the phone into his pocket. Valor fetched the leash from its hook and pressed the leather into Rowan's palm. "Good boy," Rowan whispered, voice cracking on the edge of memory. He racked the garage door up. The wind knifed in, scattering snow across the concrete. His motorcycle waited outside, a matte black touring beast, armored for weather and war. He swung into the saddle, Valor leaping fluidly into the custom side harness built just for him. Engines from distant driveways answered his ignition, veterans waking across the dark, gearing up, filling tanks, checking weapons, pulling on patched jackets heavy with ghosts. The storm thickened, snow swirling like ash. Rowan looked down at Valor. The dog's stare burned forward, pupils locked, body coiled with purpose. "We keep promises," Rowan said. Valor lifted his chin as if agreeing. Rowan revved the engine, tires spitting ice. For Ethan, for the girl, for the vow carved into the bones of men who never leave their own. The storm howled, the road called, and in the breath before he launched into the white blur, Valor suddenly bared his teeth, not at the wind, but at the shadows behind Rowan, stiffening as if sensing a danger unseen. Rowan turned slowly. The night was still, empty, but Valor never reacted without reason. A prickle crawled down Rowan's spine. Someone else was already moving, watching, waiting. This wasn't going to be just a rescue. It would be a war, and it had already begun. The storm had no mercy. Snow hammered the asphalt like a million shards of glass falling from the heavens, swept sideways by a punishing crosswind that clawed at leather jackets and howled across endless plains. By the time dawn threatened somewhere behind the bruised ski, the convoy of 99 war-born riders was already slicing through Wyoming's frozen arteries toward the Colorado border, engines roaring like rolling thunder under an iron ski. Rowan Hale sat rigid at the head of the formation, shoulders squared, spine straight as the bayonet training that had carved discipline into his bones. Frost clung to the ends of his beard, silvering the already rugged angles of his jaw, and his eyes stayed fixed forward, sharp and unblinking. Beside him, mounted in a reinforced tactical side platform, Valor kept his head high, amber eyes scanning the white horizon. Snow peppered the dog's sable coat, and steam rose from his breath like a medieval warhorse ready to break through enemy lines. Every so often, his ears would twitch, tiny, precise movements, as if charting hidden ghosts in the blizzard. The Iron Sentinels moved with the chemistry of soldiers who had once depended on one another for life. Some had been infantry, others medics or EOD. One survivor of the convoy, Reed Bear Collins, rode on Rowan's left flank, a man in his mid-40s with arms thick as tree trunks, a chest scar from shrapnel, and a beard streaked with iron. Bear's face was a map of pain and loyalty. One eye drooped slightly from nerve damage, but his grin, when it came, was full and warm, the kind a lost soul at a VFW hall might cling to like a life raft. Before the war, he built playgrounds. After the war, he wore a bracelet with the names of 5 brothers he couldn't save. He didn't talk much, but when he did, his voice sounded like boots on gravel, solid and steady. On Rowan's right rode Amelia Doc Vega, the first female to complete a special operations medical pipeline in her unit. She was 30-something, tall and lithe, her brown skin glowing even under layers of winter gear, thick dark hair braided tight against the cold. There was softness in her dark eyes, but the jawline of a woman who had sutured wounds under fire and dragged bleeding men through darkness, refusing to lose even one on her watch. She hummed quietly to herself as she rode, a habit she developed after Kabul, music as a counterweight to the screams memory sometimes played too loudly. Behind them stretched a sea of steel and leather, each rider marked with the Iron Sentinel's emblem, wings crossed by a gauntlet, moving in perfect disciplined formation. This wasn't rebellion. This was a procession, a vow in motion. The blizzard thickened until the world turned to a white tunnel, the highway disappearing beneath spinning frost. Then came the fuel stop. A remote truck station battered by wind, neon lights flickering blue and ghost dim under sheets of snow. Rowan signaled with two fingers and the convoy peeled in with practiced precision. Valor leapt lightly to the ground the second Rowan dismounted, stretching muscles and shaking off flakes like a wolf shrugging off winter's bite. As Bear filled Rowan's tank, Doc checked her phone, face tightening slightly. Rowan clocked it. Talk. Aurora Summit security logs got accessed, she replied, voice low, calm but edged. Hospital admin flagged it. Someone pulled admission files. Rowan's jaw flexed. Law enforcement credentials? Looks like it. Their enemy was already maneuvering. Valor's sudden growl cut through the icy quiet. Low, controlled, command-grade aggression. The dog stalked forward, hackles lifting, nose pressed to the tire of a dark gray Chevrolet Suburban parked near the diesel pumps. The SUV looked ordinary. Too ordinary. Tint legal. Plates clean. But Valor's stance did not lie. Rowan crouched, sniffed subtly, catching the faint chemical tang again. DUT-3 brake fluid mixed with something synthetic and metallic. He touched the rim. Fresh residue. Then he saw it. A fingerprint smear, like someone had checked the wheel only minutes ago. Someone who knew brakes, someone who knew cover stories. He took a photo. Another. Bear moved slightly to block the wind, but also, Rowan knew, to shield him in case this was more than coincidence. We being watched? Bear muttered. Feels like a rifle scope on my back. Rowan didn't answer. He didn't need to. A movement near the convenience station doorway caught Valor's attention. The door cracked open and a young woman stepped out, mid-20s, pale from fluorescent light, blonde hair pulled into a messy bun beneath a wool cap, dark green parka too thin for the weather. Her cheeks were wind-bitten and her gloved fingers trembled as she held a steaming paper cup. She froze when she saw the convoy, 99 riders, their patched jackets, and a massive German shepherd staring right through her. Her name tag read, Sarah Keller, assistant manager. Her eyes, a striking icy blue, held exhaustion and something else. Fear or recognition? Rowan stepped closer, calm but authoritative. Morning, he said. You see who got out of that Suburban? Sarah swallowed hard, voice barely steady. 2 men, clean cut, didn't buy anything. They just stood inside, watching. Law enforcement look? More like military, but not friendly. She flinched at her own words. Rowan nodded once, studying her face. Midwestern features, honest bone structure, someone who had learned to be invisible to avoid trouble. Working graveyard shifts at gas stations often taught people about fear in quiet, mundane ways. You're safe, Rowan said gently, voice softening for the first time that morning. Valor placed himself between Rowan and Sarah, protective but non-threatening. Sarah stared at the dog, awe flickering in her tired features. He looks like he knows everything. He thinks he does, Rowan answered, and Valor flicked an ear in mock offense. It made Sarah breathe, half a laugh, half a sigh of relief. The sentinels refueled fast. Gloves slapped, helmets tightened, the ritual of people who had no luxury for hesitation. Snow lightened into specks as the storm paused, like the sky itself was inhaling. Rowan touched Valor's collar. Mount. The dog leapt in one smooth motion. Bear rolled his shoulders once. Doc cracked her knuckles. The convoy lined up again like knights readying against an unseen kingdom. Engines ignited. Thunder warmed. The world went from silence to storm heart. Before Rowan pulled away, Sarah called out over the roar. Those men, they look scared, not of you, of what you're going toward. Rowan's eyes narrowed. Good, he said softly. They should be. Then the sentinels launched back into the white. Snow rushed around them, blurring horizon and sky, metal and wind merging into single purpose. Reach Maya before the wolves do. Valor lifted his head, nose to the wind, and this time he let out a sharp bark, not warning, but urgency. Something was ahead, something waiting, something hunting, and the road to Aurora Summit just turned from mission into ambush. The automatic doors sighed open as Rowan stepped into the hospital's sterile brightness, boots crossing polished tile that shone like ice. Aurora Summit Medical Center was all calm white light, clean lines, and quiet hums of machines, yet the air held tension, a stillness too sharp, as if the walls themselves sensed a storm walking in. Valor padded ahead, broad shoulders rolling like a wolf stalking through snow. His coat shimmered sable and amber under fluorescent light, ears pointed forward, tail held steady, not aggressive, but ready. Soldiers called it low-ready posture, the stance before violence breaks. Rowan's eyes lifted, scanning the lobby. Security guards stiffened as if instinctive prey sensing a predator they didn't understand. Rowan wasn't reckless. He was controlled force, every movement calculated. His jacket bore the Iron Sentinel's emblem, gauntlet and wings, stitched with a simplicity that felt more military insignia than biker patch. A nurse at the desk, young with copper hair and a neat bun and freckles like dusting of cinnamon, looked up and froze. Her badge read Nurse Haley Mason, early 20s, earnest green eyes, nerves visible in the way she chewed her bottom lip. Her kindness seemed fragile, like she was new to witnessing darkness and still believed hospitals were safe places. "Excuse me, sir, are you—" she began. Rowan raised a hand gently. "I'm here for Maya Carter. Rowan Hale." Her posture eased slightly at the name. Maya must have spoken of him, but her fingers still hovered near a call button. "4th floor, social worker is expecting you." She glanced at Valor, unsure whether to fear or admire the dog. Valor sat with dignity, gaze calm but penetrating, like an old war general assessing the wounded. Rowan gave a nod of thanks and moved toward the elevator. His boots echoed, heavy, resolute. Inside the elevator, fluorescent light washed across metal walls, reflecting fatigue etched into Rowan's face, lines of war, grief, loyalty. Valor sat at his heel, silent sentinel. His breath fogged slightly in the cold air. Rowan rested a hand on the dog's harness. Easy. Valor didn't need calming. The word was more for Rowan himself. When the doors opened, the world narrowed. 2 uniformed officers stood by Maya's hall. Officer Brent Calder, tall, mid-30s, with sandy hair and an athletic frame, looked uneasy, hands folded in front of his belt. His face carried concern, not arrogance. The other, Officer Mark Dwyer, older with a hawk nose and jaw bristling with gray stubble, watched Rowan with suspicion sharpened by years on force, and maybe by favors owed to the wrong man. Dwyer's eyes held judgment, but beneath it, a flicker of fear. Rowan said nothing. Words weren't needed. He walked past them. Valor's tail brushed Dwyer's boot, deliberately slow, a silent warning from a creature who knew danger better than any badge. Maya sat propped against pillows when Rowan entered. She looked small beneath hospital blankets, thin wrists bruised, collarbone too visible. But her eyes, storm gray just like Ethan Ward's, lit with fragile relief when she saw him. "Uncle Rowan," she whispered, voice raw. Rowan hadn't been anyone's uncle, but he didn't correct her. It was a title earned, not given. She reached out with her good hand trembling. He took it gently. His touch, once trained to break bone, now trembled with a different kind of strength. "I told you I'd come," he murmured. Valor hopped carefully onto the bed's edge, muzzle resting on her lap. Maya's breathing slowed, trembling easing. He said he'd take me home today." Her voice cracked. "He said nobody would believe me." Before Rowan could answer, footsteps sounded like a drumbeat behind him. Calm, controlled, practiced arrogance. Grant Ellison entered, mid-40s, tall, immaculate uniform pressed sharp as razor lines, sandy hair trimmed to regulation perfection. He carried himself like a man who worshipped mirrors more than gods. A square jaw dusted with stubble, smile carved but soulless, the kind of face the public trusted and predators wore. "Mr. Hale," he drawled smoothly, voice dipped in false pleasantry. "I'm Officer Ellison. I appreciate your concern, but you'll have to leave. Maya is coming home. Valor's growl was low, deadly quiet. Not bark, not threat, judgment. Rowan stood, shoulders rolling back like armor sliding into place. His voice came out gravel and steel. "She's not leaving this hospital with you." Ellison smiled wider, crocodile sweet. His eyes, however, hardened, blue glass turning to ice. Two officers entered behind him, flanking flaring presence like hired intimidation. Dwyer trailed behind, lips tight. Ellison spread his arms theatrically, a politician at a podium. "I am her legal guardian, and you?" His gaze swept Rowan's jacket, stopping on the Sentinel's insignia with theatrical disdain. "You're a biker gang member who stormed a hospital." Rowan's jaw ticked. "I'm the man her father trusted with her life." Ellison's nostril flared. Maybe he hadn't expected that answer, or maybe he hated remembering Ethan, the man whose shadow Rowan still stood in. "Her father is dead," Ellison whispered, voice turning venom soft. "And the law." "The law?" Rowan stepped forward, inches between them. Valor mirrored him, weight shifting subtly to his front paws. "You think the badge makes you untouchable?" Ellison didn't flinch. "I think it means I have authority, and you do not." Maya choked on breath, whisper breaking like glass. "He killed her. My mom. He killed her." Silence detonated in the room. Officer Calder, still in the doorway, flinched visibly, doubt flooding his features. Dwyer swallowed hard, eyes darting away. Ellison only smiled, sickly sweet. "Trauma does strange things to memory." Rowan's voice lowered. "Dangerous. Her mother had injuries before she died, documented, and your SUV brake line gave up fluoride residue." Ellison's smile faltered, just a twitch. Valor stiffened, reading that drop of fear like blood in water. Rowan leaned closer, voice soft enough only Ellison could hear. "A man can polish his badge, but he can't wash off what he is." Ellison's jaw clenched, his lips barely moved. "You don't know what you're stepping into." "I'm not stepping." Rowan's voice was a quiet knife. "I'm standing. Between you and her." Ellison stepped back, veneer cracking, arrogance splintering into anger. "This isn't over," he hissed. Rowan's reply was a whisper carved from war. "It never is." The room held its breath. Outside, down the hall, faint but unmistakable came a sound. Heavy boots, synchronized, purposeful, backup, or worse. Valor lifted his head, tail stiffening, body anchoring like a shield. More officers, or someone else entirely. Rowan positioned himself between the door and the girl. The storm had followed them inside. The hospital conference wing looked nothing like a sanctuary of healing anymore. Chairs scraped, radios murmured, shoes shuffled restlessly across linoleum floors polished too clean. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting a pale glow over anxious faces. The air bore the weight of tension, the kind that settles on a battlefield seconds before the first shot. A portable monitor was rolled into place, its screen connecting to a remote courtroom feed. A seal of the state glimmered behind the judge's distant bench. The lens stared like an unblinking eye sent to measure truth and fear with equal calculation. Rowan stood at the front beside Maya's wheelchair, his hands resting lightly on Valor's tactical harness. Beneath his touch, the German shepherd's muscles were tight as coiled wire, ears pricked, amber eyes scanning the room as though every unknown heartbeat might be threat. Rowan's expression was carved from granite, unshaven, jaw tense, brow shadowed with quiet fury. And something else, too. Hope, fragile but present like a candle in a storm. Maya clutched a blanket around her thin shoulders. Despite fresh bandages and pain meds, she shook, tendons visible at her wrists. Her hair, shoulder length and once glossy, now fell limp. Her lips were cracked as though fear itself had drained color from them. But her eyes, Ethan Ward's eyes, held a rising flame of courage. Officers lined the back wall, cameras from local news crews clustered behind them, reporters wearing serious expressions as they whispered to sound technicians. A nurse with soft brown curls and tired hazel eyes named Linda Cho, late 30s, plain navy scrubs, quiet kindness, stood nervously by the door, arms folded protectively as though she could shield every patient in the building by will alone. She didn't know Rowan personally, but she had seen enough battered women and frightened children in her years to know what guiltless terror looked like. And she saw it in Maya. On Rowan's other side stood Marcus Sterling, the Iron Sentinel's attorney, mid-50s, silver-streaked hair slicked back with executive precision, square jaw, clean-shaven, dark three-piece suit tailored with military crispness. His gaze was sharp but steady, the kind that had once stared down federal prosecutors and refused to blink. He had been a military lawyer before the war took his younger brother. Since then, his career had shifted from corporate law to defending veterans and children. His voice when he spoke carried that soft-edged steel of a man broken once and reforged stronger. "Judge Herrera, we're ready." The judge's voice came through the speakers, firm, seasoned, a cadence that hinted she had seen too many tragedies to be easily manipulated. "We will hear opening statements." Ellison rose first. He was immaculate in his uniform, posture immaculate too, chin lifted just enough to make arrogance look like confidence. He placed a solemn hand on the table, and for a moment he looked like a hero from a public safety commercial, but his eyes were hard and shining, hungry to reclaim control. "Your Honor," he began smoothly, "this entire situation is the result of trauma, confusion, and grief. My stepdaughter recently lost her mother. She has always been sensitive." He paused, let the room breathe his lie. "I have served my community 15 years. Unblemished record. Awards for bravery. Youth outreach volunteer. My only goal is to bring my daughter home safely and get her the help she needs." The reporters scribbled. Cameras whirred. Rowan noticed how Ellison's hands didn't shake, not even a tremor. Only predators possess that stillness under scrutiny. Then Sterling spoke, calm, unhurried. "Your Honor, service can be armor for saints and wolves alike. We are here because a child spoke a truth that terrified her." He motioned to Maya. His voice softened. "She deserves to be heard." Judge Herrera nodded. "Ms. Carter, would you like to give your statement?" Maya swallowed. The world seemed to quiet around her. Her fingers tangled into Valor's thick fur, holding on as though anchoring herself to something unbreakable. Valor shifted, leaning in with subtle pressure, support, comfort, command. Maya inhaled. "He hurt me." Her voice was soft at first, wavering. "He would twist my arm, grab my hair, tell me nobody would believe me. After Mom died, it got worse." A murmur rippled through the room. Ellison scoffed, a misstep too confident. Sterling's brow lifted. Maya continued, voice strengthening. "And my mom, she was going to leave him. She found bank papers. She hid a USB. She told me if something happened to her, find it." Her good hand reached into the pocket of her blanket. A tiny stuffed bear with one button eye stared back at the room as she lifted it. Maya undid the seam, a fragile tremor in her hands, and slid out a USB drive. Gasps cut through the silence. Ellison's face drained white for just a heartbeat. A flash, a crack in the mask. Sterling held out a gloved hand. "May I?" Maya nodded. Rowan could feel her pulse racing through her grip on Valor's fur. Sterling connected the drive to the state laptop. On-screen documents populated. Wire transfers, offshore routing codes, brake system invoices time-stamped days before the crash. Accident, and a digital note. If anything happens, he did it. Protect Maya. H. Ward Ellison shot to his feet. "Fabricated. This is planted." He pointed at Rowan. "He put her up to this. He collects damaged soldiers and lost children." Valor's growl rolled through the room like low thunder. A reporter whispered, "Oh my God." Officer Calder, who had looked uneasy earlier, took a step away from Ellison, face pale, moral compass finally spinning to true north. Judge Herrera slammed her gavel. "Enough!" Ellison's facade cracked, sweat at his temple, jaw clenching. The truth was surfacing, and dragging him with it. "Ms. Carter," the judge said gently, "do you wish to stay with Mr. Hale?" Maya didn't hesitate. She pressed her forehead briefly to Valor's head, then met the judge's eyes. "Yes, please, I want to live with family." Rowan's chest tightened. Not triumph, something deeper, redemption. Judge Herrera breathed out slowly. "Emergency guardianship granted to Rowan Hale." A tremor ran through the room as though the building itself exhaled. "Officer Ellison, you will surrender your weapon pending investigation." Ellison's composure finally shattered, eyes burning, teeth grit. "This isn't over," he spit at Rowan. Rowan's voice came quiet, lethal calm. "It's over for you." The bailiff stepped toward Ellison. Valor sat poised, watching him like a wolf watching a crumbling throne. Outside the glass windows, snow began to fall again. Quiet, soft, cleansing. But somewhere in the hallway, Rowan heard radios crackle urgently. Footsteps. Not triumph yet. Not safety yet. A storm was gathering again. The world outside the hospital glowed in the amber hush of a winter sunset, the Colorado mountains blushing faintly beneath sinking light. Snowflakes drifted like tired feathers from a pale sky, soft and slow, as though even the storm paused to witness what dignity looked like when worn by the broken and the brave. Rowan Hale stood beside his motorcycle at the hospital entrance, helmet tucked beneath one arm. His posture was upright, shoulders squared not out of pride but duty. The lines around his steel-gray eyes softened as he watched Maya step through the sliding doors. She wore the Iron Sentinel's leather jacket, black, heavy, the patch family stitched across the back. It dwarfed her small frame, yet somehow seemed made for her, as if it had quietly waited for this moment, this child, this battle. Valor sat by Rowan's side, a pillar of muscle and devotion. Snow dusted his sable fur, forming a silver crown over his ears. At 4 years old, he had seen war, blood, and silence deeper than winter's heart. Yet now his tail thumped gently against the cold concrete, softer than any applause, a quiet celebration. Along the entrance pathway, 99 veterans formed 2 rows. Their jackets bore scars from road and war, patches faded by sun, and wrists carried leather bracelets engraved with names the world had forgotten. They stood not rigid like soldiers, but proud like guardians of something sacred. Diesel, broad-shouldered, copper-brown skin, his beard dense and peppered with white, bowed his head as Maya passed. His eyes were fierce but wet, like a hurricane trying to be gentle. Behind him, Naomi Switch Reyes, sharp cheekbones and raven hair shaved on one side, cybernetic prosthetic leg gleaming beneath riding leathers, raised 2 fingers to her brow in a quiet salute. She was the kind who rarely spoke, her voice clipped and efficient due to years in Army communications, but she nodded once at Maya, approval subtle yet immense. At the end of the line, Chief Donovan Hawk Mercer stood holding a thermos of hot cocoa, mid-50s, Native American descent, long silver hair tied in a low braid, face weathered like canyon walls carved by wind and war. He once led a tribal scout platoon, and his calm had the weight of old mountains. "For the road," he rumbled, deep voice warm. "No soldier fights on an empty belly." He winked gently, and Maya's laugh was small but real. Rowan handed her the helmet. "Ready?" Maya hesitated, not from fear of riding, but from the enormity of stepping into a new life. Where do we go now?" Rowan's voice held the softness of someone unused to using it gently, yet learning. "Home. To Wyoming. To my place." He hesitated, then added, "To your place, for as long as you want it to be." Maya nodded. The wind tugged her hair. A trembling sigh left her lips, relief and exhaustion mingling in the breath of someone who had survived a storm and was just learning what safety tasted like. Valor hopped into the reinforced side harness platform, settling into a protective curve. His tail draped around Maya's back once she climbed onto the seat, like he were wrapping her in a blanket spun from duty. The engines roared, not aggressively, not like a threat, but like 99 hearts beating in one chest, steady, certain, alive. As the convoy rolled out, nurses pressed their faces to glass windows, watching something they rarely saw. Not tragedy, but deliverance. Officer Calder stood in the doorway, hands tucked into gloves, regret lingering in his eyes, but something else too, resolve. His partner, Officer Dwyer, no longer by his side, gone with the shamed and the corrupt. Calder gave Rowan a short, respectful nod, the kind a good man gives when he chooses which side of history to stand on. On the far side of the parking lot, a woman waited by a gray Civic, slender, brown coat, auburn hair streaked blonde at the fringe, carrying a clipboard and weary eyes behind rectangular glasses. Eleanor Finch, guardian ad litem, mid-30s, soft-spoken but tenacious, someone who had lost a sibling in the foster system years ago and vowed no child she met would fall through cracks again. She watched Maya with a small breath of relief, exhaling the dread she had worn like a second skin all day. When Maya glanced her way, Eleanor mouthed, "You're safe now." Maya nodded, tears gathering but not falling. She wiped them with the back of her casted hand before anyone noticed. The convoy rolled toward the mountain pass. Sunlight kissed the last edges of hospital glass, making it glow like a citadel of frost behind them. With each mile, Maya's back relaxed just a little more. Her head leaned forward, forehead pressing to Rowan's back as if to remind herself this wasn't a dream she'd wake screaming from. Valor turned his head, checking on her repeatedly. Once he nudged her hand, and she smiled sleepy gratitude. Rowan felt the shift too, not in posture, but in heartbeat, a steadying warmth that no battlefield had ever offered. We did it, he thought. We brought one home. Snowbanks framed the road like walls of pale fire. The convoy moved as one, valiant, unbroken, a river of chrome and devotion cutting through winter. And in the quiet between engine pulses, Maya whispered just loud enough for Rowan to hear, "Thank you for keeping your promise." Rowan didn't answer aloud. He only placed one gloved hand briefly over hers. Far behind them, Aurora summit shrank until it vanished behind falling dusk. But Rowan glimpsed Valor glance back one last time, checking the battlefield to ensure the enemy stayed behind. Then he faced forward again. The wolves guarded the lamb, and this time, the lamb survived. But as the mountain shadows deepened, a different unease coiled in Rowan's chest. He felt it before he understood it. Danger had not ended. Darkness doesn't surrender quietly. Promise kept. War not over. Valor's ears twitched sharply. Body stiffening. Something ahead, something waiting. Freedom lay forward, but so did the next fight. Sometimes, miracles do not arrive with angels and trumpets. Sometimes, they come as a tired veteran who keeps his promise, as a loyal dog who refuses to abandon his post, as ordinary people standing up when the world looks away. And sometimes, God's answer is courage. The courage to protect the innocent, to speak the truth when fear claws at your throat, to love when the world has given you every reason to shut your heart. In our everyday lives, we may not ride through blizzards or face wolves in uniforms, but each of us wakes up with battles unseen, a child needing protection, a wound needing healing, a voice waiting to be heard. And every small act of kindness, every choice to show up for someone who needs us, that is a miracle too. May God watch over everyone who stands for what is right, who protects the weak, who believes that love and loyalty still matter in a world that often forgets. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who believes in miracles too. Leave a comment to let others know they are not alone, and subscribe to our channel to walk with us on this journey of faith, courage, and hope. May God bless you, protect your family, and give you strength for your battles, seen and unseen. Until the next story, stay faithful, stay brave, and never stop believing in miracles.